It's been almost 2 years since I lost my daughter Lily. The tears have long dried up, leaving behind an unbearable sense of loss that weighs on me like lead throughout my body. My name is Mark Thompson. My wife Kate passed away early on. She was never in good health, and there were risks during Lily's birth. Still, I honored Kate's wish to have a child. As childbirth approached and her life faded, she smiled at the end, saying, "Please take care of our daughter." Her image often blends with Lily in my recent memories. Since then, I've tried to fill the void by immersing myself in parenting struggles. My love for Lily deepened as she grew, and our time together was cherished. I imagined telling Kate about Lily if we ever met again. Those were genuinely happy times, until they were shattered one day. Lily was about to start elementary school and must have been practicing her route to the school bus stop alone, proudly wearing the backpack I'd bought her. As she walked at a crosswalk, she was hit by a drunk driver. It was a tragic event condensed into a brief news report. Lily had followed all the rules. She did nothing wrong. Why should my daughter have been taken? I couldn't summon the energy to curse or confront the sobbing, apologizing driver. All I could do was stand in shock in front of Lily's lifeless body. It felt like a scene from a TV show, unreal to me. At the funeral, I couldn't cry, but I broke down screaming and crying when I saw Lily's backpack at home. After that, I lived a hollow life. Eventually, my boss encouraged me to take a long leave of absence. I knew I lacked motivation at work and couldn't burden my colleagues anymore, so I gratefully accepted the offer. I found myself wandering aimlessly outside, often ending up at the local park. One day, as I sat blankly on a bench, I noticed a crowd in the distance, a group of kids around Lily's age, teasing one in the middle. I pushed my way through the kids, possibly yelling. I don't remember clearly. Suddenly, the group scattered like spiders. "Are you okay?" I asked the crouching child who looked up at me. My heart nearly stopped. The girl looked just like Lily. Frozen, unable to speak, I watched as she stood up and quietly said, "Thank you," before starting to walk away. "Wait." I blurted out loudly. It was the first time since Lily's death. Are you thirsty? Do you want some juice?" Nervously, I pulled out a bottle of orange juice I had bought for later. "I like orange," she replied. Relieved, I made a nonsensical excuse. "It's still unopened, you know," before handing her the bottle. She accepted it happily, smiling shyly. When she smiled, she looked even more like Lily, causing a faint pain in my heart. I sat down on the bench beside her. The girl introduced herself as Mia. She preferred orange juice over apple juice, dogs over cats, and slides over swings. Lately, she had been wondering why the dogwoods had to lose their leaves. "They'd look so much prettier if they just stayed in bloom," she mused. Not giving a specific answer, I mentioned that it was getting cold, so we should probably head back soon. As we were about to leave the park, Mia murmured, looking down, "Can we meet again?" I gently placed my hand on her head. "I'm here in this park every day around this time. If you feel like it, come by then." Her face lit up brightly. "Really? I'll come every day." True to her word, Mia came to the park every day after that. The bullies hadn't shown their faces in the park since that incident. "Did I scare them that much?" I asked Mia, to which she replied with a mischievous grin. "I've also started standing up for myself more." Recently, Mia would excitedly talk about things that happened at school or a strangely shaped rock she found on the side of the road. I shared stories from my childhood, like having a dog or the time I brought home so many bugs that I nearly gave my mother a heart attack. Strangely, we never tried to talk about our current families. The more I looked at Mia, the more she resembled Lily. If Lily had started elementary school, maybe we would have talked like this. I realized I was looking for Lily in Mia, not without a sense of guilt. Was I just replacing Lily with this child? Sometimes I fell into self-loathing with that thought, but I didn't have the courage to let go of those moments with Mia. I need to tell you, Mia started one day looking sad. "I'm going to start after-school activities next month. The activities would be on weekdays after school until 3:00 p.m. I'm going to do that with a friend from school, so I won't be able to spend as much time as before. But can I still come to see you in the evenings? How could I say no? That night, my boss contacted me, suggesting that I could return to work, even if only for a short time each day. The hours would be from 8 o'clock a.m. to 3 o'clock p.m., a rare arrangement apparently made possible because my colleagues had spoken to my boss on my behalf. After that, Mia and I started meeting after her activities and my work. My colleagues, who had waited for my return, said I seemed different from just before my long leave, with some even getting emotional about it. They said I seemed softer. When I was living with Lily, I never wanted to use parenting as an excuse to slack off at work. I must have been pretty desperate after losing Lily. I had been a mess. Despite repeatedly turning down invitations for meals from friends and colleagues, they never gave up on me. Now I'm realizing just how much support I had around me. I'm filled with gratitude for my colleagues, my boss, and most of all, for Mia, who gave me a chance to find my way back to life. But I can't keep depending on this kindness forever. When I was starting to think about getting back to my regular work schedule, Mia showed up at the park one day looking downcast. Even when I tried to talk to her as usual, she was unresponsive, and the conversation didn't flow. What's wrong? Did something happen? I was worried she might be getting bullied by those kids again. After a while of silence, she looked up at me with a pained expression, and tears started to overflow. As she began to cry, I comforted her and slowly got her to talk. That's when I first learned about her family situation. Mia was an orphan who had been raised in a facility. She had started the after-school activities because volunteers had come to the facility, and she felt obliged to join. Due to the orphanage's curfew until 5 o'clock p.m., she would leave immediately after her activities, ended to meet me until that time every day. Now, due to the circumstances at the orphanage, it had been decided that she would move to a facility in the next city over. As she finished telling me everything through her sobs, she murmured, "I'm sorry for not saying this for so long. I thought you'd hate me if I told you I lived in an orphanage, so I just couldn't bring myself to say it for the longest time. That's silly. No matter where you are, you're still Mia. I love you no matter what, and that won't change," I reassured her. She nodded happily several times. If she were my real daughter, I wouldn't hesitate to hug her tight. Then, with tears in her eyes, she looked straight at me. "I'll come here every day, so can we still meet?" Of course, I wanted to say. We'll meet every day. However, it would take more than an hour for Mia to get here from the new orphanage using public transportation. It's not realistic for Mia to travel that distance by herself every day. Having lost a daughter myself, the thought of her being in danger is unbearable. As I hesitated to respond, Mia also became silent, looking down. She probably knew it was an impossible request. "Mia, can you hear my story?" I chose my words carefully, speaking slowly to make it easy for her to understand. I told her about losing my daughter and starting to take time off work, and how meeting Mia had begun to bring color back into my world. She listened silently as I spoke. After finishing my story, I took a deep breath. "Mia, we won't be able to meet like this anymore. You're smart, so you understand, right?" Mia nodded slightly. A child who lost her parents and a parent who lost his child. We were just filling voids for each other. But the time for playing family is over. We have to face reality. It's time for both Mia and me to start walking on solid ground again. Let's make a promise, okay? Mia's shoulders twitched slightly. She looked up and repeated, "A promise?" with curiosity. "In 10 years, when the dogwoods are in full bloom, let's meet here again. By then, you'll surely be a wonderful adult able to come here on your own. I'll do my best too, so there'll be a competition to see who can become a better adult." My voice probably shook a bit towards the end, trying not to let her notice. I gently patted her head, as I always do. Her face lit up as she nodded vigorously. "Yes," she said with a genuine smile. She extended her pinky towards me. "Pinky swear?" Taken aback but amused by her usual demeanor, I laughed and linked pinkies with her. I watched Mia wave goodbye and leave the park until she was out of sight. Then, I collapsed to my knees and cried. At first, I had overlaid Lily's image onto Mia, but as we spent time together, Mia became an irreplaceable presence in her own right, distinct from Lily. The promise to meet again in 10 years. It was made without specifying a day or time, just the season. Mia didn't even know my name. I'm sure she will forget about me eventually. Even without me, she can live a happy life. For me, thanks to meeting Mia, I found the courage to live again. Her presence made me want to face my own life head-on. I can't depend on her forever. After all, she's not my daughter. I cried unabashedly, sobs escaping me. When I finally looked up at the sky, tired from crying, beautiful stars were shining in the dark sky. Strangely, my heart felt clear. It felt like Kate and Lily were watching over me. The encounter with Mia must have been necessary for me to move forward. I hope the time spent with me was meaningful for her too. Perhaps my late wife and daughter had a hand in our meeting. I slapped my face to psych myself up and hurried home, thinking about the future to come. Before I knew it, 10 years had passed. Now I am sitting calmly on that park bench and looking at the dogwoods. The day after that day, I went to my boss first thing in the morning and asked to return to my normal duties. With his approval, I worked hard to make up for the time I had missed, wanting to be someone Mia and Lily wouldn't be ashamed of. My efforts paid off. I became relied upon again at work, with my colleagues saying, "The old Mark is back." I eventually got promoted and gradually began to regain confidence in myself. And just like that, 10 years flew by. In those 10 years, I hadn't looked at the flowering dogwoods. Actually, I avoided them because they reminded me of Mia. I couldn't answer her question about why dogwoods fall. Now, I think I can do it properly. Dogwoods are beautiful because they fall. People find value in their blooming and falling. Kate and Lily bloomed fully and then fell. But what I always remember isn't their departure, but all the smiles and memories they left behind. Life is like dogwoods. Everyone will eventually fall, but there's always a time when they bloom fully. You've got a way with words, an answer that shouldn't come back, and a mischievous smile that I shouldn't see, flipped through my mind and dissipated. I've run through these 10 years with all my might. If I could meet Mia and Lily again, would they smile and wave at me? Have I become the cool adult I wanted to be for them? Breathing in the spring air deeply and smelling the dogwoods, I closed my eyes. I felt a gust of wind and the sensation of flower petals dancing. At the same time, I heard, "Never forget our pinky promise, right?" A voice more mature, but still familiar to my ears sounded behind me. Slowly, I opened my eyes and stood up. "Thank goodness," I said with disbelief. I awkwardly turned around. "This one hasn't been opened yet, okay," the girl, now in a uniform, said with a playful smile. In her hand was a bottle of orange juice. Another 10 years have passed since that day of reunion. I'm looking at the dogwoods again, this time with Mia by my side. "How many times is this now, watching the dogwoods together like this?" murmurs Mia, who has grown up to be beautiful. "I'm not sure, since we've seen them every year since the 11th time when we reunited," she told me. "I'm not a kid anymore, so stop patting my head," she said, scrunching up her face. "Or is it the 12th? I continued, to which she laughed. "You're as vague as ever." Her smile seemed even more beautiful, not just because she's at that age, but because today, Maya shines brighter than anyone. That day 10 years ago, I was stunned as I watched the girl approach me. I flashed back to the first time I looked into Mia's eyes from a close distance, just like when we first met and she was being bullied. I can't remember how we conversed after that. Next thing I knew, I was being taken to the orphanage where Mia lived. "You're the person Mia always talked about." The teacher in charge of Mia at the orphanage looked at me with deep emotion. From the beginning, she had talked about our promise to win the competition of who could become a better adult. She devoted herself to her studies, was active in sports and volunteer activities. Mia has also been a big help looking after the younger kids. I'd always thought it must be because of the man's influence. I've always wondered what kind of person the man was. said the teacher with a laugh, implying she had been worried I might be someone weird. I learned that Mia had been visiting that park daily for a week since the dogwoods started blooming, waiting with an unopened bottle of orange juice. When the teacher told me that, I couldn't help but cry. She pretended not to notice. That day, dragged by Mia, I played with the kids at the orphanage with all my might and suffered from muscle aches the following day. Since then, I've met with Mia frequently, advising her on her career path and love life. Something about love I might not have been able to do with my own daughter. I wonder about that. I hear a voice that couldn't possibly be Lily's. Is that Kate chuckling beside her? Mark, lost in these thoughts, Mia's voice snapped me back to the present. Thank you for today, she said, blushing slightly in her pure white dress. Dressed in a tuxedo I was not used to, I stood with Mia arm in arm, looking at the dogwoods in front of the church. Mia, make sure you're happy, I managed to say, unable to find the words to tell her how beautiful she was. Mia teared up a bit at my words, her face scrunching up as she smiled, saying, yes. What kind of bride scrunches up her face like that? I joked, struggling to hold back my own tears. I walked with her into the church. Inside, there were her teachers, friends, and many people who had colored her life. At the end of the wedding aisle, a young man who would continue to love her stood, smiling warmly. Mia, you've really become beautiful, not just on the outside, but inside as well. Life is a series of hardships. Maybe the happy times are like the moment when dogwoods are in full bloom. Being able to savor and feel happiness might be the most important part of life. Mark, it's time for the toast. Mia called out to me, snapping me out of my reverie. Laughter broke out around us, and my face flushed. I didn't hear anything about leading a toast, shooting her a mock glare. I was met with that unchanged, mischievous smile of hers from years past. Seeing the smile, my concerns faded away, and I raised my glass. Mia, thank you for making me the father of the bride.